I'm not your typical professor. I didn't know much about college at all until I went to college. There was no one in my family who had graduated or who could give me any ideas or suggestions about how to prepare or what it would be like. I based my entire understanding of college and higher education from the things that I saw on the movies and TV shows like My So-Called Life and all those kinds of shows, around that time, Saved by the Bell. That was that was my basis. I knew nothing about higher education in a real way, which is why I struggled so much, my first and second year of undergrad. And there's a video on my channel that you can check out where I discuss that. So I'm not your typical professor. I don't care that much about grades. Students are so obsessed with grades. Even as a student, I don't remember being obsessed with grades. I was really just enjoying the process of learning and the experience of being in college and, this new environment. I started to care more about it, as I got closer to graduation and when I overcame my, academic struggles. But it was never at the forefront for me. But what I've seen is that, students nowadays are so concerned about the grade. There are the students that are happy with just getting a C, or a D, just getting by. And then there are those who want a 100%, in the class. A 90% isn't good enough for those students. But every semester there's so much concern about grades. And I just want to say, I don't really care about grades. I care about whether you're learning, whether you're finding value in my class, whether there's something that you're going to take away from this experience and be able to use later on in life, that this information is challenging you and giving you something to think about when you go home, that it is helping you to better understand your relationships and who you are. Those are the things that mean the most to me. And there have been, several students throughout my teaching career that have come back, after my classes or maybe at some point during the semester have told me how something that, we discussed in class or an assignment or just my personality made some impact on their life and their future goals and things like that. And that is the most meaningful thing that I could ever hear from a student. So I try to, create assignments that are relevant and are not so heavily weighted that they're going to, destroy the student's entire grade if they don't do well. I give them a lot of different options for assignments in my classes, different styles. Some are writing, some are more like multiple choice quizzes. Some are more creative, like going to the art gallery, creating collages. So I try to assess in a lot of different ways because students are different and this standardized approach just doesn't work. So I wish that is something that I could get across more to my students, that it's not actually the grade that matters the most. Of course, you want to pass your classes, but that shouldn't be the driving force because it really obscures the learning process and those nuggets that come through in the classroom conversation, not just from what the professor says, but what other students say, and then your ability to give feedback and add this really illustrious discussion environment to the class. Those things are incredible. And those are the things that matter to me. So I'm not your typical professor. I abhor administration and bureaucracy. I think it is so convoluted and such a huge waste of time and a way for people that want to have more power and prestige to progress within the educational institution. there are these just ridiculous layers of administration in so many colleges and universities. All of these chairs and deans and directors and vice presidents, and it's just, it's so unnecessary. And it doesn't add any value to the institution at all. It doesn't enhance the student experience at all. All it does is elevate these typically mediocre people. And some are, are good at what they do, but I think that the educational environment should be about the students and about how well we're equipping faculty and staff to teach our students and care for our students and advise our students. That should be the core of the institutional environment, not hiring for administrative positions every semester, but not hiring faculty in the humanities for 5 or 6 years. I just think that's so crazy. So I guess I'm not your typical professor. I think very differently from a lot of my colleagues. My life is very different from a lot of my colleagues. My entire life is not academia. Again, there are videos on this channel, where I talk about these things, that I didn't get a degree to stay closed into a classroom environment and never do anything else. I plan to utilize all aspects of my degree and my skills and my knowledge to do other things and to support other people and gain, greater understanding of myself and the world around me. So I don't believe that your degree begins with college and ends when you get your ideal job. So I guess I'm not your typical professor, but I like the professor that I am. And I think that I provide a unique atmosphere for my students. There still aren't many Black women professors. There still aren't many Black women Muslim professors, unfortunately. So I exist kind of in my own realm when it comes to that also. And not being typical, I have found to be incredibly valuable because I come across students who are not typical, who may see themselves in some aspects of my personality or my style. So this is Class with Prof. Eve, and we connect sociology to everyday life. And I will see you in my next video. Peace.